Welcome to the Leaderonomics Show. Today I'll be speaking with Ruben Gnanalingan, CEO of Westport Malaysia. Ruben inherited Westport from his father, who built Westport into a huge terminal port, one of the biggest in the world. Join me today as we discuss with Ruben on how he emerged as CEO and how he has stepped out of his father's shoes and how he manages the dynamics of a father and son relationship in business. Join me now as we speak to Ruben on his adventures at Westport. Welcome to the Leaderonomics Show. I'm here with Ruben Gnanalingan, CEO of Westports Malaysia. Ruben, welcome to the show and thanks for being here with us.
Thank you.
Tell us a bit about yourself and how you've transitioned to CEO of Westport. It must have been a daunting journey because you've kind of transitioned from your father, who used to lead the organization, to yourself. How's that been and how did you do it?
Well, first and foremost, my dad is still in charge. I mean, he's still the boss. He's the executive chairman. My role is actually CEO. He runs the board and he does all the strategic stuff from that level. And for me, it's more the day-to-day stuff of running the company. But how it started was, I actually joined the company twice, and this is actually my second stint. The first one was only for about, I think about 6 months in total. And I started off just doing basically all the kind of jobs right at the bottom, just to understand how those things work. So from being a storage clerk to running around, managing traffic and control and things like that. To eventually doing the next 5-year plan for the company in corporate planning. After I did that, I actually moved on to do my own thing for a few years, and I came back in 2004. And me and my dad set up a very clear plan from 2005 to 2009, where I would transition in to become CEO. It was very phased because we needed to get 3 constituencies done first. The first one was the customers must, of course, like me. The second one is the staff has to respect me, and of course the board has to have confidence in me. So we had to work very carefully to make sure that all 3 constituencies were very comfortable, and that's why we did it over a 5-year period.
But was it tough? I mean, was it challenging? Because you're always going to be in the shadow of your father, right, to some extent.
Well, for 5 years, that transition phase was challenging because I would get more departments to be under my control as time went by. The funny thing was when they actually transitioned when the title actually changed, that particular year, there was no more transitioning of anything happening. So people ask me, is there any change now?
Not really.
Not really, because it's
But do you have challenges where if you made a decision and they said, let's just talk to your dad to kind of overturn that? And I can imagine. I've never been in that position, but you probably be a better man to.
In our case, there's 2 parts to that. One is a lot of decisions we actually make quite similar decisions. When we do have different opinion, we do argue, of course usually behind closed doors lah. But we do argue, and it's almost like there's no hard feelings because we both know that we're both arguing for points which are going to benefit the company. And we're both arguing for what's best for the company. And his points are his points, my points are my points. And we can argue for an hour and then suddenly go for dinner after that and as though nothing happened. But it's mainly because I know that he's thinking what's the best thing for the company, and he knows I'm doing the same thing. So, and our arguments or our debates actually usually end up with us having the best compromise solution for that particular situation. And in general, most of the time, because we've put in such good mechanisms in place, there are not many things where we have massive differing opinions at all. In terms of style, for example, I mean, people. A lot of the time we make the same decisions. So the only difference is how we make those decisions. And I think that's where the key difference between his management style and mine actually lies. The first thing is that, for him, he's got all the experience, right? So his gut feel usually is a bit more, obviously he feels a lot more strongly about it, and he can rely on it a lot more because of his experience. For me, I like numbers, and I like statistics, and I like having data to make decisions. And I live I grew up in an era where all this is possible. He grew up in an era where to get statistics takes months, right? We grew up in an era where statistics are given to you right on your fingertips. So So relying on them for me is a bit more easier. I mean, a bit easier for me, and of course for him, you have to rely on gut and experience counter. So I think this is where the main difference lies. But in general, and the other part about it, I say, is two things. The other part about it is that we don't really have that much office politics in the company for people to try and trip us up, kind of thing. It's mainly because we both generally do frown upon it quite a bit, right? So the people that we shouldn't have in the company are the people who are trying to promote office politics, right? Because we don't think that those are the kind of people we want to keep in any case. So in general, they won't try to do those kind of things. But of course, there are times where by pure chance, I say one thing, he say one thing, but it's usually resolved quite quickly. I call him or he call me and say, how do you do this? Or what is your thoughts? What is my thoughts? Okay, let's change our mind. So either one of us will change our mind and then just resolve it quickly. It's not but and we don't let those things dwell to the point where why is he overriding me, or why is he undermining me, or any of those things. So I think when you have communication which is very open,
right. And a relationship of trust, I guess that helps.
Exactly. So I think that's when you can avoid a lot of these situations.
Fantastic. Tell us a bit about that time where you left Westport. Why did you leave to find your passion or vision or soul?
Many reasons. I think.
And what did you do when you left?
Well, I went to actually join. Me and a few friends set up a incubator, an IT incubator, more specifically. And the main reason I left was because he actually asked me, "Are you ready?" And I think at the time Westport had about 1,500 to 2,000 people, and I'm like, I don't think I can manage 2,000 people. Right? I can hardly remember 50 names. So manage 2,000 people is actually a daunting task. So I think it was like 23 or 22, and I said, no, I don't think I can. And he wasn't too upset either, because I think the way he puts it is, he would rather I make my mistakes somewhere else. So go out and make mistakes, which is how you learn.
Yep, absolutely.
And he believes that's the best way to learn, and therefore, for me to go and make mistakes in a separate environment is actually a very, very good thing. So, I mean, the first mistake we learned very, very quickly in this new company we set up was, when you come out of university, you forget about 9 to 5, right? You never think about 9 to 5. You think about it in school, but university somehow, there's no timing in university, right? It's just whatever you want to do. So, when you go into the work world, you realize, why is people bogged down by this 9 to 5? As long as you do 8 hours or 10 hours of work a day, what does it matter what time you start, what time you end? So we decided to start our company with flexi hours, and
that didn't work out well.
No, we thought it was the best idea in the world, and my dad chose not to interfere. Yeah. He knew it was a bad idea. I can see in his face, but he just said, "No, I'm not going to interfere. You do whatever you want." Right? So we started on that basis, and within 1 month we changed it back to 9 to 5 because.
So that was mistake number one.
No, that was learning number one.
Learning number one. Okay, we are going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with more learnings and thoughts from Ruben Gnanalingan here on the Leaderonomics Show. I'm speaking to Ruben Gnanalingan here on the Leaderonomics Show, and we're talking about mistakes that Ruben has endured, I guess, over the last couple of years as starting an incubator. Ruben, you were just talking about lesson number one, which was the flex work arrangement.
Yeah.
What are some other lessons that you learned from your time away from Westport?
Well, the lesson that we learned in that first one was mainly because customers were calling at 9 o'clock and no one was in the office. So that's why it was an important lesson to understand, and my dad chose not to help us understand it by words, but rather by actions, because once we understood why we're doing it, we never questioned it again. It never came up in our minds that flexi hours was a good idea, and of course, you understand why making mistakes was actually the best way to learn a lot of these things. I think over the years in the incubator we made lots of mistakes. Bad from making bad investments to, of course, good investments too.
This is both in Westport and
no, in the
incubator.
In the incubator. So and of course we're starting up a lot of companies there. So as you help these companies grow, you learn what not to do in various types of industries as well. So I think that was a very good experience for which we had for about 4 years or 5 years, and I wouldn't change that, because we learned a lot about business and a lot about how a lot of these things work, obviously.
So this set you up for your role back in Westport as executive director and later as CEO, right?
Yeah.
In some extent. So what, as CEO, what do you think is your biggest challenge, and what's a typical day like?
Well, actually, my day in Westports, a lot of it is meetings, meeting after meeting after meeting. In general, there's so many different groups to meet that once you actually go through all of them, it actually takes out your entire schedule there. And the other problem is I'm not in the country half the time, because one is we got listed last year and we have to visit a lot of investors. But actually we were traveling a lot anyway to begin with, because all our customers are mostly foreign companies. We hardly have local shipping lines anymore. There are a few which are very crucial, but in general, most of the shipping lines that come to Westport are actually international corporations, mostly based out in Asia. So a lot of traveling is involved. So when I am in Malaysia, I try to meet as many groups as I can to discuss their issues and how best we overcome them, or whatever updates they may have in terms of operational needs, etc.
So how I mean, you talked about traveling overseas. One of the things you've invested in, I guess, is QPR. How has that been? And and I understand now it's a LA new franchise, a new football franchise also in LA that you've invested in.
Right.
How did that happen, and why?
I think the different. The completely different circumstances that led to both. I think QPR is something which came along, and my friend Tony and I were actually looking for a club for a long time, and we actually looked at many clubs. And when this opportunity came about, we were very excited because we felt it was a very good fit, for us. We actually made the decision only after we met the fans, and I think the fans is what convinced us at the end of the day. When you get involved in the club, I think that has to be the number one goal for you, is how you build your fans and how to get the fan base up. Yeah. So for me, that's how that one happened. It just happened to fall on Tony's lap, and therefore we decided it was a good
There's some
idea.
significant challenges in QPR, right?
Of course, I mean
significant people challenges, I guess, right?
I think you have people challenges in whichever company or whichever organization you're in, but I think football or sports in general is one where it's all about people management.
Right. And it's very public, and it's
there's hardly any infrastructure, to be honest. Well, besides the stadium, of course, but it's all about the performance of the business is measured on the field half the time.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to make sure you perform, because it also affects your bottom line at the end of the day. So staying up in the Premier League is of course very crucial for us, and this Premier League promotion relegation thing is a very, very scary affair as well. So it's I mean, I think Tony would admit himself that I think we've learned a lot in the last 4 years now.
You lose a lot of sleep.
Well, definitely.
Or you gotten used to the ups and downs of being.
Well, the games are very late at night as well, so you tend to lose a lot of sleep anyway. But it's different, I have to put it that way. For LAFC, on the other hand, we knew there was another franchise coming up for United. I mean, for the States. I think there's 2 more after this. We have franchise with 22, if I'm not mistaken, and I think they want to have 24. And I do believe I do believe soccer will continue to grow in the United States, and I think that's why this franchise was key to get involved in. And when the opportunity came about, my friend Henry, who owns the Saigon Heat team in our basketball league, he was the one who was leading it. And when he showed me the opportunity, I said, I think this makes a lot of sense. There's no promotion relegation over there, so that takes out a bit of the scariness, but I think the whole market there is going to grow very, very fast. I think if you watch the last World Cup, the attention that the United States gave to football, I think the numbers there can only go up.
So is that a space that you're going to go deeper into in terms of getting into the whole football sports space?
We're very comfortable with ports and sports. I think that's what I think we feel a lot of passion with. The reason I like sports is because I think it's one of the 4 basic needs of a human being at the end of the day. Besides food, shelter, those kind of things. I think when it comes to entertainment, I think that's what people want, as one of their basic needs in life. And I think there's no better form of entertainment than sports.
Okay, fantastic. We're going to take another short break, and we're going to be right back here on the Leaderonomics Show.
why talents leave companies. Praise.
Cut. This top 10 ways to stand out at work. What a difficult customer. It's difficult when you just join. But then again, customers are always right.
And when you're frustrated, your boss can be a bad idea.
Welcome back to the show, and I'm speaking to Ruben Gnanalingan from Westports. Ruben, we were talking about a little bit about Westports, but personally, for a young person who's just graduated from university, right? And if you have to address a group of young people and give them 2-3 nuggets of wisdom as they start out life, what would they be?
Well, I think if they just graduated, probably just joining the workforce. I think, in this day and age, I think you have to get experience. That's very crucial. So maybe don't be so picky in your first job, and get the first job out of the way first.
So should they take hard jobs or?
I think you should take any job you can get, and of course the best job you can get. I think that's very crucial to begin with. I think once you have that first job, then maybe you can be a bit more picky in terms of what you want to do. So I think solve that part first instead of waiting, procrastinating for that first job. I think that's the most dangerous part, because you tend to, some people get into a sense of too complacent in that sense, and I think that's the danger. So I think if I had to give them advice, that would be the first one.
Okay, and if you were addressing a group of CEOs who are running companies, what advice or pearls of wisdom would you impart?
So I think it's actually very cliche. The two things that I find most important to myself, to myself when I'm running a company, whatever it may be, has to be customer focused. And I see, not just in Malaysia, in many other countries too, people always forget who the customer really is, and people never analyze who the customer is, and they never analyze who the customer is not as well, which is also just as important. If you know who's not your customer, you get to remove these people from that list, and therefore focus on the ones who you really need to focus on. And once you know that part, I think you have to make sure that you cater your business to whatever their needs are, because at the end of the day, a bit like the name of this company, a lot of it's due to economics, in my point of view. I study economics, so I base everything I do on economics, and I think any business you're doing is based on demand and supply. And if you do not cater your supply to fit the demand of your customer, I don't think it will actually go well. The second point is actually to do with people. A lot of people think they're managing machines, etc., but you're managing people most of the time, and that's why the people who run things best are the people who manage people best. And I think if you understand that people are your greatest asset, no matter what business you're doing, usually those companies tend to do a lot better as well. And people say they understand that people are the greatest asset. People say they understand customer is the most important thing, but in practice, a lot of them do not actually do that. And I think more people need to remember those two things.
Westport, and this final question, Westport has transformed, under your dad, I guess, a little bit with you, from, small terminal to one of the biggest in the world, if not one of the top terminals in the world. What's your vision for the future for Westport?
Well, we still got a lot more room to grow in the location that we have, and we're very excited about that growth. Beyond that, I'm sure in order to make sure we continue to grow after that, we will definitely be open to looking at other locations as well. So I wouldn't say my long-term vision would be a port group in any way, but I think we have
There's a possibility of that down the road.
We have to look at opportunities beyond our current location, because it will be full at some point, and we have to. The only way to go is to go beyond that location. So.
Okay, now we're going to go to a fun part.
Sure.
We make sure all our guests get to play Thinkonomics. Thinkonomics is our almost trivial pursuit type of game. So here's a dice. Maybe you can throw the dice. And let's pick a category. Yeah?
So just this dice, right?
Yep. Growth. Let me look for growth. Which is growth? Here we go. Growth. Okay. Here's a question, and you've got 30 seconds to answer it. What are 2 impossible things you have done in your life?
2 impossible things I've done in my life.
Timer's going.
Impossible.
Or at least you perceive this as impossible.
Well, believe it or not, 5 years ago, I lost 26 kilos in 3 months.
Oh.
Actually, 2.5 months. I was very determined. I've obviously since put it back on. But
But it's not impossible now
But it's not impossible. But
to lose it again.
I didn't think it was possible, and I actually did it. Two things. So one other thing would have to be, well, not what I did was impossible. I think what QPR did last season was impossible.
Okay.
And I was glad to be a part of that
Which
team.
is to get promoted back in one
Right,
season.
yeah, in one season, exactly. And the way we did it in the final, I think, was
Amazing.
was impossible.
Against the odds. Okay, one more. Let's do the red one. Okay, relationships.
Oh, lovely.
Lovely, yeah? This is gonna kill you. Okay, how would you measure the success or failure of a relationship?
Success or failure of a relationship. I suppose it depends on the kind of relationship it is, right? And you know, it depends what kind of relationship you wanna have before you go into it. So, and if it's a friendship, then you know how you want that friendship to be would probably be along the lines of somebody who you can rely on, etc. So
trust,
I think if you set your parameters at the beginning of what you want this relationship to be, and then based on that you design the goals that you want, and I suppose that's how you measure the success.
Absolutely. Well, let's do one more. Let me pick a category now. Let me pick empowering. Okay, let's see. If you could wake up tomorrow in the body of someone else currently living, whom would you pick?
Wait, I need to know the next part though. Can I go back to myself or after that?
Yeah, well, no.
Because if I can't, then I won't choose anybody else.
Okay, if you can go back, I mean, just for a day. Okay, let's say you can go back. You can be in somebody else's body for one day. Whom would you pick?
So I can be somebody else's body for one day.
And why? I think more importantly.
I suppose it'd probably be whoever at that point in time was the president of the United States.
So in this case, it would be Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Is it so that you get to hang out with Michelle?
Well, I want to see what the Oval Office is like when nobody else is there. So.
Fantastic. Well, Ruben, thanks for being with us. Thanks for playing Thinkonomics with us. And I've been speaking to Ruben Gnanalingan, CEO of Westports Malaysia, here on the Leaderonomics Show. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yep.